As a 0.58 square kilometer village with a population of under 700 people, Olden, Norway is the definition of small but mighty. Olden is home to some of the most epic sights that I saw during my entire Norway trip, including, but not limited to, massive mountains, massive glaciers, beautiful Gatorade blue glacial lakes, great hiking, and the incredible opportunity to take one of the steepest gondola rides in all of Europe. As you can imagine, there's a variety of incredible things to do in Olden, including the most popular Briksdal Glacier hike and Loen Skylift. So in today's video, I am going to show you how you can do both the Briksdal Glacier hike and the Loen Skylift in just one cruise day. If you're new to my channel, hey guys, I'm Indigo from the Indigo Sahara travel blog, where we help hundreds of thousands of travelers just like you make your dream trips a reality through budget travel tips and destination guides. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. I actually have a lot of Norway cruise itineraries and destination guides and tips coming out soon, so subscribe so that you don't miss those. In order to make the most of your cruise port day in Olden, Norway, you're gonna want to get up early so you can see both Briksdal Glacier and Loen Skylift without feeling rushed at the end of your day. When we were in Olden, I started my day off with the Briksdal Glacier hike. I actually wasn't able to book an excursion to the hike trailhead because they were all sold out by the time I knew that I should have booked them early, but luckily I was able to secure some last minute shuttle bus tickets from the cruise port. At the cruise port, there is a ticketing office right outside the ship where you can get excursion tickets the day of. They also have a bunch of tents set up, so if you wanted to book a different tour or another excursion, you can do that the day of there. I recommend booking early in advance, but if you are unable to because they sell out like me, then you might have the option to do that the morning of. I do recommend getting off the ship as soon as you can, though, if you're planning on doing that, just so that they don't sell out the day of, obviously. But after I got my ticket, I took a shuttle bus to the Briksdal Glacier trailhead. You have to take a shuttle there because it is a 30-minute ride to the trailhead, so obviously that's not walkable. You do pass some beautiful glacier lakes on your way there and some stunning waterfalls, so have your cameras ready in the shuttle bus, and overall it's a very enjoyable bus ride, but you need it nonetheless. Without hesitation, the Briksdal Glacier is the most popular thing to do in Olden, Norway on cruise port days for good reason. Here you'll witness a massive glacier hanging over a Gatorade blue glacial lake, waterfalls galore, and if you're lucky, a few lupines in bloom. Once you arrive to the Briksdal Glacier Visitor Center, you'll have a short hike to get to the glacier, unless you take the troll cars, which we'll discuss next. The trailhead to Briksdal Glacier is located just behind the visitor center and is very easy to navigate.
I am on a solo hike today. My sisters and mom stayed behind. They're not as outdoorsy, and that's totally fine. Look at this waterfall behind me, wow. I'm headed to Briksdal Glacier, which is like one of the most iconic things to do in Olden, Norway. It's about a 45-minute uphill walk slash hike up to the glacier. I just started, and at the top there'll be one of the largest glaciers in Europe, I believe, as well as a glacier lake, and I love glacier water. It's already so pretty, waterfalls everywhere. It's down where I started. There's where we're going. You can even see one of the arms of the glaciers way up there. It's huge. Through the Clover Gang, if I even pronounced that right. Oh my gosh. It's like a little slack canyon. So cool.
The Briksdal Glacier hike is an easy out and back 45-minute each way hike to the glacier. Honestly, I hesitate even calling it a hike because it's mostly just an uphill walk with a few staircases. It's not a very difficult hike. It's very easy. I saw people of all ages doing this hike and all physical abilities, so it's really more of an uphill walk. And I'm not even like a trained hiker. I enjoy hiking, but I'm not like a hiker. And I was able to make it up to the glacier in 35 minutes, even though they estimate it to take 45 minutes. And on the way back down, I only spent 25 minutes walking back down. So obviously it is an easier hike, and you don't have to be worried about elevation sickness or anything, because even though you're going into the mountains, you're starting at sea level at the port, so you shouldn't have any issues with elevation sickness either. Like I mentioned, the difficulty is easy, the trail type is out and back, the length of the hike is 3.3 miles or 5 kilometers. You'll have an elevation gain of 608 feet and an estimated time of 45 minutes each way. So I would plan to spend around 3 to 4 hours at Briksdal Glacier, including the hike, because you'll want to budget about an hour and a half for the hiking itself. Plus you'll want to spend a lot of time at the glacial lake. It is beautiful. Some of the most beautiful water I've ever seen, very similar to Banff if you've been to Banff, Canada, like that water, or Delta Lake in Wyoming. This is just stunning, a stunning glacial lake with a glacier in the background that you'll want to hang out around. So I recommend budgeting about 3 to 4 hours of your day for Briksdal Glacier. Once you arrive at the glacial lake, you are rewarded with jaw-dropping views of Briksdalbreen Glacier and Banff Blue Glacier water. The top of the hike is most crowded, so don't be afraid to walk down the lake shoreline to find less crowded areas. Alternatively, if you aren't too keen on doing the hike, they do have troll cars that you can pay extra to ride up the majority of the hike. You'll still have to walk about 10 to 15 minutes after the troll cars bring you up, but they're gonna drive you all the way up past the steepest elevation gains and past the staircases. So if you don't want to hike, this is a great option. Again, you're going to want to book this as early as possible because the troll car tickets do sell out and they cost extra as opposed to just doing the full hike. But it's a great option for those of you who aren't big hikers but want to see this stunning, iconic glacial lake. After you enjoy Briksdal Glacier, walk down to the visitor center to meet your shuttle bus driver to drive back to the port of Olden. Your driver should tell you your specific return meeting time before you start your hike. Then, once you're back to the port of Olden, pick up a quick grab-and-go lunch at the nearby gas station or on your ship before heading to your next Olden cruise port stop, Loen Skylift. There is a gas station where I recommend getting your lunch just because it'd be quicker to get it there than getting back on the ship and getting food. So because you're short on time, I recommend going to the gas station. It's just down the street, maybe like a 2-3 minute walk from the port. You'll see it if you look down the street right at the port. So you can just walk there and grab something quick for lunch before heading to Loen Skylift. Loen Skylift is one of the steepest gondola rides in Europe. As such, the payoff for visiting Loen Skylift includes immaculate views of the Fjorden, epic aerial views of Olden's glacial lakes, and eye-level views of the surrounding mountain range. Much like the Briksdal Glacier, to get to the Loen Skylift, you have to take a shuttle bus from the port of Olden. This ride's only about 10 minutes, but you're gonna wanna book those shuttles in advance. Again, we were able to book these the day of. Thankfully, we got off the ship early in the morning and booked both the Glacier Lake hike shuttle bus and the Loen Skylift shuttle bus at the same time or right away after we got off the ship. So worst case scenario, you should be able to book that shuttle to the Loen Skylift base the day of if you need to. And like the Briksdal shuttle, this ticket should include your return ticket to back to the port of Olden as well, so you won't have to worry about getting separate tickets to get to and from the sightseeing spots. They are catering to tourists, as I mentioned before, so all of these shuttle buses should include a return ticket as well. Just don't lose your ticket when you're at the sightseeing spot. Once you get to the Loen Skylift Visitor Center, follow the signs to the Skylift. It's very easy to navigate. The visitor center is small, so you shouldn't have a problem finding the line that you have to get in to get onto the gondola itself. You may have to wait in line depending on how busy it is, depending on what season you're there, depending on what time of day. When we were there in the afternoon after Briksdal Glacier, it was not crowded at all, and we only had to wait about maybe 10-15 minutes before we got on the gondola. These gondolas can hold like 15-ish people at once, so they can hold a lot of people. So the line shouldn't be too long, but just know that in advance that you might have to wait in line. But the skylifts also operate on a loop, so again, you shouldn't have to wait too long just because they're constantly moving, constantly boarding people and deboarding people on the top of the mountain. The Loen Skylift takes its passengers over 3,300 feet above sea level in just 5 minutes. While you may experience some ear popping on the way up, you shouldn't have to worry about elevation sickness because you start from sea level. Above all, you get a good peek at the beautiful glacial lake and snow-capped mountain views to come. At the top, in addition to extremely impressive views, there's a beautiful indoor restaurant with panoramic views of the fjord. This restaurant would make for a perfect romantic date or a nice lunch alternative. Moreover, upstairs above the restaurant, there's a small bakery filled with fresh Norwegian cinnamon buns, honey buns, and more. If you watched my Norwegian Fjords cruise tips video, you know how much I love the Norwegian pastries. So if you're hoping to try one, which you should while you're there, then you can do that at the bakery upstairs. If you opt out of the Briksdal Glacier hike and visit only Loen Skylift, and if you're daring enough, there's also the option to either hike or zip line back down the mountain. If you're short on time or not so adventurous, then you can hop in line to go back down the mountain on the gondola at any given time. Just be sure to give yourself ample time to shuttle bus back to the port of Olden before your all aboard time. Note, the ride back down the mountain is fast, so prepare for your stomachs to drop at the beginning of the ride down. Overall though, the Skylift is not scary at all. Most kids would be fine on it, most older adults would be fine on it because it is very accessible and not very scary at all, just a lot of good views. If you're scared of heights, obviously maybe that's a different story. You might have a little bit more trouble with it because you are going 3,000 feet up in a matter of 5 minutes. And also it's worth noting that at the top of the mountain, there isn't necessarily like a huge drop off close to the pathway where there's like viewing, as opposed to some destinations where it's just like path and drop off to your death. This one's a little bit more gradual. They have like the road and the path where most of the tourists are looking at the view, and then it's kind of like a gradual little hill until the drop off. So as long as you stay off the grass and are smart, Loen Skylift isn't like a dangerous area, just be smart. Don't go on the grass, don't roll down the hill, like obviously, because you'll end up falling off the mountain to your death. But overall, I felt very safe there, felt very stable there. And they do have a platform with a railing for viewing. If you want to go past that grassy area, they do have a platform with a railing that you can go on. So just do that instead of going on the grass, obviously. Then after you return back to the cruise port from Loen Skylift via shuttle bus, you may have an hour or two left over, surprisingly, just to shop and enjoy Olden. I had about an hour and a half left over, even after doing Briksdal Glacier hike and Loen Skylift. I still had about an hour and a half left before the all aboard time. So I went to all of the souvenir shops that were right on the port, and I also walked about 10 minutes into town just to kind of look around and enjoy the fjord more. This port is stunning. It was by far my favorite cruise port out of all of the Norwegian fjords ports, just because of the mountains and the glacier water. That's my favorite. So I wanted to spend as much time on the port as possible. So I just walked around. There's like a little park, and they had a walking path from the cruise port to the city. So you weren't walking on the street or anything. It was very easy to navigate, and you will never lose your cruise ship because the ships are huge compared to the tiny little village of 700 people. And on my walk, I was able to see lupines. Obviously, if you have a couple hours left over, I definitely recommend just enjoying the port until you're all aboard time. The walk from the cruise port to city center is only about a 15-minute walk, so you won't have an issue going to the city center, even though I shouldn't even call it city center because it's really just like a collection of houses. There isn't really much to do there because it's so small. But for lack of better terms, to city center, you can go there and back to your ship without any problems, without having to shuttle there. You can just walk very easily. And yeah, overall, I highly recommend Olden, Norway. Honestly, Olden and the country of Norway as a whole just are very near and dear to my heart. And Olden was, again, my absolute favorite. So definitely make the most of your port day in Olden. Highly recommend doing that by visiting the Briksdal Glacier and Loen Skylift, which are rightfully the most popular things to do there. And if you love mountain views and beautiful nature, then I know for sure that you're gonna love Olden just as much as I did. I will link all these specific tour companies and shuttle bus companies that I wrote on below so that you don't have to worry about that. Remember to book them early, but I'll link them below so that you can find them easily. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend watching my destination guide to Flom, Norway, because if you're sailing to Olden, you are likely sailing to Flom too. So I give all of my best advice for sailing through Flom, Norway in that video, which you can watch next. Other than that, I will see you in next week's video. For now, ciao.